A wrong number usually ends with an awkward apology. For Claire Maddox, it ended with a war. She was locked inside a bathroom barely wide enough to stretch her legs, her back pressed against the cold porcelain tub, her breath coming in shallow, panicked gasps. One of her ribs was broken. She knew the sound it made when it happened. She knew because she would hear it again in her nightmares for years to come. The man packing on the other side of the door had sworn he would kill her before sunrise. Claire tried to text her brother. Her hands were shaking too badly. Her vision blurred not just from pain but from shock. She mistyped one digit. That message didn't go to her brother. It went to a phone that hadn't received a text in nearly 4 years. A number known only to a handful of men who either feared it or worked for it. A private burner belonging to Dante, New York's most untouchable crime boss. What happens when a desperate victim accidentally summons the devil himself? The answer begins with the sound of bones snapping. It wasn't a clean crack like in the movies. It was wet, muffled, a sickening pop that vibrated through her entire torso. Claire heard it before the pain arrived. Then the air was ripped from her lungs as if someone had punched straight through her chest. White-hot agony exploded along her left side, radiating into her spine. She collapsed onto the kitchen floor, her knees folding beneath her. Her mouth opened, but no scream came out, just a strangled wheeze. "Look what you made me do." Ethan Cole's voice was calm, almost bored. That was the worst part about Ethan. He didn't yell, he didn't lose control. He was a detective with the NYPD, a man trained to inflict pain precisely, carefully, without leaving obvious marks. Usually. Tonight he had slipped. Claire clutched her side, her fingers slick with sweat, unable to form words. Every breath felt like glass cutting into her lungs. She looked up at him. He was adjusting his watch, studying her with mild irritation, as if she were a problem that had inconvenienced him rather than the woman he had been engaged to for nearly 2 years. "I have to get back to the precinct," Ethan said, stepping over her legs. "Clean this up, and if you're not in bed when I get back, Claire, we'll finish this conversation." He grabbed his keys and walked out. The apartment door slammed shut. The deadbolt slid home with a final, metallic click that made her flinch. She waited 3 minutes. She counted them by the frantic pounding of her own heart. When she was sure he was gone, she dragged herself across the floor. The pain was blinding now, a roaring presence that drowned out everything else. She knew exactly what was happening inside her body. She was a trauma nurse. She recognized the symptoms immediately. Possible pneumothorax, internal bleeding, a ticking clock. She needed a hospital. But she couldn't go to one. Ethan had friends in every ER within 20 miles. They always called him. Always. She needed her brother, Michael. He was the only one who had never bought Ethan's perfect cop facade. Claire crawled down the hallway toward the bathroom, the only room with a lock Ethan hadn't smashed yet. She dragged her purse behind her, her fingers numb. Inside, she locked the door and wedged herself against the vanity, shaking violently. She dug through her bag and pulled out her phone. The screen was cracked from when Ethan had knocked it out of her hand the night before, but it lit up. 11:47 p.m. She opened her messages. Her vision swam. She tried to type Michael's number from memory. She had deleted his contact months ago because Ethan checked her phone every night. Her thumb slipped. She didn't notice. She just needed someone to know she was dying. "He broke my ribs, I can't breathe. He locked me in, please help." 317 East Monroe. Apartment 9C, door code 4417. She hit send. The phone slipped from her hand and clattered onto the tile. Claire leaned her head back against the cabinet. Tears leaked from the corners of her eyes. The pain dulled into a heavy pressure, dragging her toward darkness. She closed her eyes, praying Michael was awake, praying he was close. Buzz. The phone vibrated against her leg. She gasped, a fresh wave of agony ripping through her chest. With trembling fingers, she grabbed the phone. Unknown number. Who is this? Her brow furrowed. Michael never asked that. Maybe he didn't recognize the number. She typed back. It's Claire. Please, I think my lung collapsed. Ethan did this. He's coming back. The three dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. For a full minute, nothing happened. Had she texted the wrong person? Had she just begged a stranger for help? Then the phone buzzed again. One sentence. I'm on my way. Relief crashed over her so hard she sobbed. It wasn't Michael's voice. He would have panicked. He would have called. But shock did strange things to people. She waited. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Her breathing became shallow, rapid gasps. The room tilted. The pain sharpened again, clawing its way back to the surface. Then the apartment erupted. Not a knock. A violent crash. It sounded like the front door had been torn off its hinges. Claire froze. Had Ethan come back? Had he forgotten something? If he found her texting, she knew exactly what would happen. Tonight would be the night she stopped being a person and became a statistic. Heavy footsteps thundered through the apartment. Not one person. Several. Boots on hardwood, moving with cold, disciplined precision. Clear the bedroom, a deep voice commanded. It was Ethan. And it definitely wasn't Michael. Secure the perimeter. No one comes near this floor. Claire stopped breathing. The footsteps stopped outside the bathroom. The doorknob rattled. Locked. She's in here. Step aside. The door didn't open. It exploded inward with a single kick. Wood splintered, the frame shattered. Claire screamed, throwing her arms up to shield her face. Silence. Slowly she lowered her hands. A man stood in the doorway, tall and immaculately dressed in a black tailored suit that looked wildly out of place in her ruined apartment. His presence seemed to swallow the light. His dark hair was slicked back, his face sharp, expressionless, his eyes cold in a way that made her blood run colder. She knew him instantly. Everyone did. Dante Hollow. The man people whispered about. The ghost who ran New York's underworld without ever being touched by it. He crouched in front of her, ignoring the shattered wood beneath his shoes. His gaze flicked over her bruised jaw, the way she cradled her ribs, the terror etched into her face. He picked up her phone. Read the message. Then he looked at her. You're not Alina, he said quietly. Claire's voice shook. I meant to text my brother. I sent the wrong number. I'm sorry. Please don't hurt me. Dante studied her for a long moment. Then he stood. Call Dr. Vale, he said to the men behind him. Prep the surgical suite. One of them hesitated. Boss, she's a civilian. Dante turned his head slightly, his eyes darkening. She texted this number, he said. The one that hasn't rung since my sister died. He looked back down at Claire. Can you walk? She shook her head, sobbing. Without another word, Dante Hollow bent down and lifted her into his arms. She cried out as pain flared through her ribs. Her head fell against his chest. He smelled like leather, rain, and gun oil. I've got you, he murmured. You're safe now. Claire didn't know it yet, but the moment she sent that message, her old life ended forever. The cold night air hit Claire Maddox like a slap. Rain misted the street, turning the city lights into blurred halos as Dante Hollow carried her out of the apartment. 3 black SUVs were parked haphazardly in the middle of the road, blocking traffic in both directions. Engines idled low and steady, like predators waiting to strike. Men moved with practiced efficiency, scanning rooftops, hallways, fire escapes. Claire's face was buried against Dante's chest. Her body trembled uncontrollably, part pain, part shock, part disbelief. She was being carried by the most feared man in New York, and somehow that felt safer than being alone in her own home. As Dante stepped toward the middle SUV, a door down the hall creaked open. Mrs. Klein, the elderly woman from across the hall, peeked out. Her eyes widened at the sight of armed men and shattered wood. Dante stopped. He looked at her once. "You didn't see anything," he said calmly. It wasn't a threat, it was a statement of fact. Mrs. Klein nodded rapidly and slammed her door shut. Dante continued forward. The driver opened the back door. Just as Claire was gently lowered onto the leather seat, tires screamed. A police cruiser skidded around the corner and stopped hard, its lights flashing once before cutting out. Claire felt her blood turn to ice. "It's him," she whispered, her voice cracking. "It's Ethan." Dante didn't turn around. "Put her in the car," he said evenly. "Stabilize her, wait." The door closed, sealing Claire inside the quiet, insulated darkness of the SUV. Through the tinted glass, she watched Ethan Cole step out of the cruiser, his posture rigid, his hand resting near his service weapon. "Step away from the woman," Ethan shouted. "That's a kidnapping in progress." Dante turned slowly. The two men faced each other under the streetlight. Ethan was tall, broad-shouldered, a man used to authority. But next to Dante Hollow and his security detail, he looked painfully out of place. Recognition hit Ethan like a punch. "Hollow," he said, his confidence draining. This is a misunderstanding." "Detective Cole," Dante replied. He knew the name. He knew all of them. "She has 3 fractured ribs, likely a collapsed lung, and bruising consistent with strangulation." "She fell," Ethan snapped. "She's unstable. I was taking her to the hospital." Dante smiled. It was thin, precise, empty of warmth. He pulled a battered flip phone from his pocket and held it up. "Do you recognize this number?" Ethan frowned. "No." "Neither did she," Dante said, "but she used it to beg for her life." 2 of Dante's men moved. Ethan barely had time to react before he was forced to his knees, a suppressed pistol pressed against the base of his skull. "You can't do this," Ethan yelled. "I'm a cop." "Not tonight," Dante said softly. "Tonight you're just a man who breaks women." Dante removed Ethan's badge and wallet and tossed them into the gutter. "Break his hands," Dante said casually. "Both of them." The scream that followed was sharp, animal, and unforgettable. Dante didn't look back. Inside the SUV, Claire curled into herself, tears streaming silently as the convoy pulled away. She didn't ask what he'd done. She already knew. The ride was smooth, almost unreal. The pain dulled as medication flowed through her IV. The city blurred past the windows until iron gates rose out of the darkness. They opened. The estate beyond looked less like a home and more like a fortress. Claire woke to the scent of antiseptic and lavender. The ceiling above her was high, ornate, lit by a dim chandelier. Pain throbbed in her chest, but the sharp agony was gone, replaced by a heavy, floating numbness. "You're awake," a man said gently. He wore a white coat, silver hair neatly combed back. "I'm Dr. Vale. You had a punctured lung and 3 broken ribs. If you'd waited another hour, you wouldn't be here." Memories flooded back. The bathroom, the text, Dante Hollow. "Where is he?" she whispered. The doctor hesitated. "Outside. He's been packing for 6 hours." Her heart stuttered. Later, the door opened. Dante entered quietly, sleeves rolled up, his shirt collar undone. He looked exhausted, the sharp edge of him dulled by fatigue, but no less dangerous. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Alive," Claire said. He nodded once. "You're safe here," he said, "but understand this. The police are not your friends anymore. Ethan has already told his story." Her breath caught. "What story?" "That you attacked him, that you fled with a criminal." Her world tilted. So I can't leave. Dante met her gaze. Not yet. Claire swallowed hard. Why are you helping me? Dante was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. My sister sent one last message before she died, he said. It went unanswered. He looked at her, his eyes dark and unreadable. I won't make that mistake twice. Outside the room, far across the city, Ethan Cole lay in a hospital bed, his hands encased in plaster. And he was already planning his revenge. Claire Maddox learned very quickly that safety and freedom were not the same thing. The room she recovered in was larger than her entire apartment. Velvet curtains framed tall windows that looked out over manicured gardens and armed patrols. Soft lighting glowed from hidden fixtures. Everything was warm, quiet, and immaculate. And guarded. For the first 2 days, she barely left the bed. Nurses came and went without speaking more than necessary. They moved with the calm efficiency of people who knew better than to ask questions inside Dante Hollow's house. On the third morning, Dr. Vale removed the chest tube. The relief was immediate, but it left behind a deep, aching soreness that settled into her bones. You need to move, he told her. Slowly, walking helps the lungs expand. After he left, Claire stood on unsteady legs and crossed the room. She caught her reflection in the mirror and barely recognized herself. Pale, bruised, but something was missing. The constant hunted look. She opened the door. The hallway outside was silent, lined with dark wood and oil paintings that depicted landscapes and faces she didn't recognize. The house felt enormous, alive in a way that made her skin prickle. She walked, one careful step at a time, until she reached a set of double doors at the end of the hall. Inside was a library. Floor-to-ceiling shelves packed with leather-bound books. A fire crackled softly in a massive stone hearth, and sitting in a leather chair by the flames was Dante Hollow. He wore a black turtleneck and slacks, a glass of amber liquid resting on the table beside him. A file lay open in his hands. He looked up as she entered. You're walking, he said. Dr. Vale told me to, Claire replied. Sit, Dante said, nodding to the chair opposite him, before you fall. She obeyed. The heat from the fire soothed the ache in her ribs. The silence stretched. Why is it so quiet? She finally asked. I don't like noise, Dante said. It reminds me of things I prefer to forget. Her gaze drifted to the portrait above the fireplace. A younger Dante stood beside a woman who looked strikingly like him, softer around the eyes, smiling. That's her, Claire said quietly, your sister. Yes. What happened to her? Dante's jaw tightened. She trusted the wrong man. Claire felt a chill. And the man, she asked. He's no longer a concern. The way Dante said it left no room for questions. She swallowed. Do you think Ethan is like him? Worse, Dante replied, because men like Ethan hide behind institutions. Claire looked down at her hands. My brother, Michael, he must be losing his mind. Dante stood and walked to the window. He came to your apartment, Dante said. The police told him you attacked Ethan and ran. He won't believe that. No, Dante agreed, but belief doesn't stop badges. Let me call him, Claire pleaded, just once. Dante turned back to her, his expression hard. No. Why? Because Ethan is watching his phone, Dante said, waiting for you to reach out. The moment you do, your brother becomes leverage. The words hit harder than the broken ribs. So I just disappear. You are hidden, Dante corrected. There's a difference. Across the city, Ethan Cole stared at his useless hands. The casts were heavy, unforgiving. Every throb reminded him of the night he lost control of the narrative, lost Claire, lost power. Captain Reeves stood near the door of the hospital room, arms crossed. You're on thin ice, Reeves said. Internal affairs is circling. She's with Hollow, Ethan hissed. I know it. And you can't prove it, Reeves replied. Let it go. Ethan's lips curled into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I don't need a badge to end him. Later that night, he made a call. Not to the police. To men who didn't care about laws. Back at the estate, Claire couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the bathroom door exploding inward, heard bone breaking. A soft knock came at her door. Dante stepped inside. I brought you something, he said, placing a phone on the nightstand. She stared at it. Is that? It's secure, he said. It won't connect to anything Ethan can touch. She picked it up with trembling hands. Thank you. Dante nodded once. You're safer if you feel less alone. She hesitated. Am I your prisoner? Dante met her gaze. No, you are under my protection. That protection has rules. And when I'm healed, we'll discuss your future. The weight of that promise lingered long after he left. 3 days later, the estate erupted into motion. Men spoke in low voices. Vehicles arrived and left. Dante didn't appear for nearly 48 hours. When he did, he looked different. Sharper, colder. There's a problem, he told Claire. Her stomach dropped. Ethan. He reached out to people he shouldn't have, Dante said. Men who don't respect boundaries. What does that mean for me? Dante stepped closer. His voice dropped. It means this war is no longer quiet. Somewhere in the city, alliances shifted. Old enemies smelled opportunity. And Claire Maddox, the woman who sent one wrong message, had become the center of it all. The first attack came at dawn. Claire was halfway through a slow, careful walk along the east hallway when the estate's silence shattered. It wasn't an explosion. It was sharper than that. The staccato crack of suppressed gunfire, followed by shouting, short, coded commands barked by men who didn't panic because panic got you killed. She froze. Her heart hammered against her ribs as boots thundered past her. Somewhere below, glass shattered. An alarm she hadn't known existed began to pulse, low and steady, like a heartbeat. A hand closed around her arm. Move, a voice said. She turned to see Luca, one of Dante's senior men. He didn't wait for her to respond. He guided her down a side corridor, through a door disguised as a paneled wall, and into a narrow stairwell. Is it Ethan? She asked, breathless. Luca didn't answer. He just kept moving. They emerged into a reinforced room beneath the house. Concrete walls, steel doors, monitors lining one side, each showing a different angle of the estate's perimeter. Dante stood at the center of it all. He wore a black jacket over a ballistic vest, a weapon resting easily in his hand. He didn't look surprised. He looked focused. Stay here, he told Claire without turning, no matter what you hear. Her voice shook. What's happening? The Bratva, Dante said. They're testing the gates. As if on cue, one of the monitors flared white, then went dark. They're not trying to get in, Luca said. They're mapping response time. Dante's jaw tightened. They won't like the answer. Orders flew from him in calm, measured tones. Teams repositioned. Vehicles were deployed. Somewhere above, engines roared to life. The gunfire faded as quickly as it had begun. Minutes later, silence returned, thick and heavy. Casualties? Dante asked. One injured, stable, Luca replied. They pulled back. Dante nodded once. Good. Claire stared at him. They attacked because of me. Dante finally turned to face her. No, he said. They attacked because Ethan Cole offered them something they want. Her stomach twisted. What? Dante's eyes darkened. Leverage. That night sleep was impossible. Claire lay awake, listening to the estate breathe around her. She had crossed an invisible line. There was no pretending otherwise now. Men had come with guns. Blood had been spilled. Because she existed. The next morning, Dante took her somewhere she hadn't been before. The West Wing. It was quieter than the rest of the house, stripped of luxury. Maps covered the walls. Names were written in marker. Photographs pinned and crossed out. "This is where decisions get made," Dante said. "I don't bring guests here." She swallowed. "Then why bring me?" "Because Ethan isn't going to stop," Dante replied. "And neither are the people he's courting." He pointed to a photo on the wall. A man with pale eyes and a thin smile. "Sergei Volkov," Dante said. "Bratva lieutenant. He likes to hurt women to prove a point." Claire's hands clenched. "What point?" "That no one is untouchable." Dante turned to her. "You need to understand something. If they take you, it won't be to negotiate." Fear coiled tight in her chest. "So what do we do?" Dante studied her for a long moment. "We move you." Her breath caught. "Where?" "Somewhere no one expects," he said, "but that requires trust." She laughed softly, humorless. "I don't think I have a lot of choices left." "No," Dante agreed, "you don't." Across the city, Ethan Cole sat in a private room above a closed nightclub, his hands still wrapped in plaster. Sergei Volkov poured himself a drink and didn't offer one to Ethan. "You said Hollow would bleed," Sergei said. "So far, he hasn't." "He will," Ethan snapped. "You just need the right pressure." Sergei smiled thinly. "Pressure costs money." "I gave you his weakness," Ethan said. "The woman." "Yes," Sergei replied, and Hollow responded by fortifying. Ethan leaned forward, pain flashing across his face, then hit him where he doesn't expect it. Sergei considered this. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "we already are." Back at the estate, Claire packed a single bag. She moved slowly, carefully, every breath still a reminder of how fragile she was. Dante watched from the doorway. "When?" she asked. "Tonight," he said. She hesitated. "Am I ever coming back?" Dante didn't answer right away. "This house," he said finally, "is no longer safe for you." The words landed like a verdict. As night fell, the estate came alive again. Engines idled. Routes were checked and rechecked. Claire was escorted through underground corridors to a waiting vehicle. Dante stopped her just before the door closed. "There's something you need to know," he said quietly. "If this goes wrong, I won't be able to reach you." Her voice trembled. "And if it goes right?" Dante held her gaze. "Then Ethan Cole loses everything." The car door shut. As the convoy pulled away into the darkness, Claire realized the truth she'd been avoiding since the bathroom floor. She wasn't just under Dante Hollow's protection anymore. She was part of his war. And somewhere in the city, men were preparing to make her pay for it. The road disappeared into darkness. Claire sat in the back seat of the armored vehicle, wrapped in a thick coat that smelled faintly of leather and gun oil. The windows were blacked out, the engine hummed low and steady. Two men sat in front. One drove. The other never stopped watching the mirrors. No one spoke. Every turn felt deliberate. Every slowdown made her chest tighten. She tried to breathe evenly, the way Dr. Vale had shown her, but fear had a way of overriding instruction. After nearly an hour, the car finally slowed. The door opened. Cold night air rushed in. They weren't in the city anymore. Trees surrounded them, tall and dense. A single structure stood ahead, an old hunting lodge by the look of it, reinforced with modern steel and discreet surveillance. "This is it," the driver said. Inside, the lodge was simple, functional, no luxury, just clean lines, weapons secured behind coated panels, and a fireplace already burning. "This is a fallback," Luca explained. "Off-grid, no cell towers, no neighbors." Claire nodded, though her stomach still churned. "How long?" "As long as necessary." That night she dreamed of running. Not away from Ethan, not toward Dante. Just running until her lungs burned and the world went quiet. She woke to the sound of a generator humming softly outside. Days passed. Claire settled into a strange routine: short walks, breathing exercises, reading whatever books were left behind. The men rotated shifts, always polite, always distant. Dante never came. The silence gnawed at her more than the gunfire had. On the fourth night, a secure line crackled to life. Dante's voice filled the room. "You holding up?" Relief hit her so hard she had to sit down. "I think so." "Good," he said, "because things are escalating." Her grip tightened on the phone. "What happened?" "Ethan made a mistake," Dante replied. "He reached too far." "What does that mean?" "It means I can finally touch him." Across the city, Ethan Cole was unraveling. The Bratva wanted results. Internal Affairs was tightening the net. His captain had stopped taking his calls. And Claire Maddox was still gone. The narrative was slipping from his control. When the call came from an unknown number, he answered without thinking. "You disappoint me," Dante Hollow said calmly. Ethan's breath hitched. "You don't get to call me." "I get to call anyone," Dante replied. "You broke that woman. Now you're borrowing monsters to finish the job." Ethan laughed, sharp and brittle. "You think you're better than me." "No," Dante said. "I think I'm more honest." The line went dead. Ethan hurled the phone across the room. 2 days later, the lodge went on lockdown. Luca's men moved with urgency Claire had never seen before. Weapons were checked, doors sealed. "They found something," Luca said when she asked. "What kind of something?" "The kind that ends wars." That night Dante arrived. He looked tired, not physically, but something deeper, the weight of decisions that couldn't be undone. "They flipped one of Sergei's men," he told her. "We have locations, names, evidence." Her heart raced. "Does that mean this is over?" "It means it's ending," Dante said. "Not always the same thing." He studied her for a long moment. "When this is done, you'll have a choice," he continued. "Disappear, new identity, clean slate." "And the other choice?" "Stay," Dante said, "under my protection permanently." The implication hung heavy between them. She swallowed. "Why are you offering me that?" "Because people like Ethan don't forget," Dante replied. "And because you're stronger than you think." Before she could respond, a distant explosion echoed through the forest. "Not close, but close enough." Luca's voice came over the radio. "They're moving, this is it." Dante handed Claire a small device. "If anything happens, you press this and follow the lights. Do not look back." Fear surged. "Where are you going?" "To finish what he started." Gunfire lit up the night. The lodge shook as bullets struck reinforced walls. Men shouted. Orders were screamed. Claire crouched behind a heavy table, clutching the device. Her breathing came fast, shallow. She pressed the button. Hidden floor panels slid open, revealing a narrow passage lit with soft white lights. She hesitated. Then she heard someone screaming outside. She ran. The passage led deep underground, twisting and narrowing. Her ribs screamed in protest, but she didn't stop until the lights ended at a steel door. She pushed through and emerged into a clearing on the far side of the forest. Vehicles waited. Engines roared. As they sped away, Claire looked back once. The lodge burned against the dark sky. Hours later, dawn broke. Claire sat alone in the back of the moving vehicle, shaking, exhausted, alive. Her phone vibrated. A single message appeared. It was from Dante. "It's done. Ethan won't hurt anyone again." Tears blurred her vision. She typed back with trembling fingers. "What happens now?" The reply came a minute later. "Now," Dante wrote, "you decide who you want to be." As the sun rose over the empty road, Claire realized something profound. One wrong message had destroyed her old life, but it had also given her the chance to choose a new one. And somewhere behind her, a war ended in silence. The road stretched forward, pale under the morning light, but Claire felt as if she were suspended between two lives. The vehicle stopped just after sunrise at a private airstrip hidden beyond a line of low hills. A small jet waited with its engines idling, paint unmarked, tail number temporary. Men moved with quiet precision, loading bags, checking routes, scanning the sky. Claire stepped out, her legs stiff, her body aching in places she didn't know could ache. The night had taken something out of her that sleep couldn't restore. Dante was already there. He stood apart from the others, coat unbuttoned, eyes tracking the horizon as if expecting the past to rise up and challenge him one last time. When he saw her, he nodded once. "You made it," he said. "I didn't know where else to go," Claire replied. "That's honest," Dante said. "I respect that." They boarded the jet without ceremony. No farewell speeches, no dramatic pauses, just motion forward. Once airborne, the tension slowly loosened its grip. The hum of the engines became a steady backdrop instead of a warning. Claire stared out the window as the forest disappeared beneath the clouds. "Ethan?" she asked quietly. "He's finished," Dante replied. "Officially, he died resisting arrest. Unofficially, he ran out of allies." She closed her eyes. No satisfaction came, just a strange, hollow calm. "What about the others?" she asked. "The Bratva?" "They'll fight among themselves," Dante said. "They always do when leadership fractures." The jet leveled out. They flew for hours before landing somewhere warm. The air smelled of salt and sun. Palm trees lined the private runway, swaying gently as if violence had never existed anywhere in the world. A villa overlooked the ocean. "This is temporary," Dante said as they arrived, "until you decide." Days passed without alarms. No weapons on the table, no men packing hallways, just quiet. Claire woke to sunlight instead of fear. She walked the beach in the mornings, the sand cool beneath her feet, her breathing growing easier with each step. The bruises faded, the pain dulled. But the memories stayed sharp. One evening she found Dante on the terrace, watching the sea turn gold. "You ever think about stopping?" she asked. He didn't look at her. "Every day." "But you don't." "No," he said, "because men like Ethan don't stop on their own." She leaned against the railing. "If I disappear, will he ever find me? Anyone like him?" Dante turned to face her fully. "No," he said, "not if you do it right." "And if I stay?" Dante's voice lowered. "Then your life will always exist in my shadow." She nodded. "You're not trying to convince me." "I won't," Dante said. "The moment I do, it stops being a choice." That night, Claire couldn't sleep. She thought about her old apartment, her brother, the life that felt distant now, like it belonged to someone else. She thought about the lodge burning, the screaming, the moment she ran without looking back. And she thought about Dante Hollow. Not the myth, not the boss. The man who answered a wrong number and chose to intervene. In the morning she packed. Not everything, just enough. She found Dante waiting by the car. "I'm leaving," she said. He studied her face, searching for hesitation. "You're sure?" "I am," she replied, "but I'm not going back to who I was." Dante nodded slowly. "You won't be." He handed her a passport, a phone, a card with no name on it. "Your brother has been told you're alive," he said. "Safe, that you can't contact him yet. Someday if you want." Tears welled in her eyes. "Thank you." Dante opened the car door. "One more thing," he said, "if you ever need me." "I know," she finished softly. "Wrong number." A faint smile touched his lips. The car pulled away, carrying her toward an unknown future. Months later, far from that coast, Claire Maddox no longer existed. She learned a new name, a new rhythm of life. She worked, she laughed, she healed in ways she hadn't known she needed. Sometimes, late at night, she would check the phone. It never rang. And that was the point. Some stories end with justice, some end with revenge. Hers ended with survival. All because one night, in pain and fear, she sent a message to the wrong number. And the wrong number answered.